Hey guys, True Grit Scott, Foolproof Saws and Bluesaws.com. Messing around again today, and had a couple customers out today buy some saws, and that blue 440 custom build's gonna go out today. I gotta swap the 3/4 wrap handle on it. Had the highway heavy duty, but he's doing a lot of felling. So he says, could you give me the 3/4 wrap on it? No problem. But he's a new customer. A bunch of his buddies have saws for me. They have a bunch of 440s and different things. And he's like, originally I want a 440 just like all my buddies have. So, well, what are you doing? He tells me he does lot clearing, and he's got a job coming up. It's a couple acres of land. And he said on this couple acres, there's probably 200 trees, 14 to 20 inch trees, all oak and maple. And he needed a saw. So, I thought the 3/4 wrap made a lot of sense. But the other thing was, as I said, want to try out some other saws. And we wound up running the 440, a 372. I don't think we ran the Pro because it's more the same kind of. We also ran the G372xp, the orange one I've been running. And at the end of it, he loved all the saws. It's funny, the one fella ran the Husky, which I think is a smooth saw. I mean, I just think it has better anti-vibe than the Steels in general. Cuts nicer. And it was funny, the other fellow with him ran him, and he said about the 440, how did he say it? It was funny. It made me laugh. He said, if God was running a chainsaw, this would be the saw he wants. About the 440, and I said, what do you mean? He says, it's just so smooth. Not a comment. I'd expect running a 372 versus a 440. 440's not as smooth of a saw as a 372xp. And what it turned out to be is that chain there's a little bit grabby. So when he's getting into the wood, it's kind of jumping in the wood. And if you dog in too much, it takes too big of a bite and dies on you. And it took him a minute to get used to that grabby ass chain I had on there. And I wouldn't say it's crazy grabby, it's a little bit grabby, and if you're not used to it, it'll get you, whereas that's a much smoother chain. Probably the rakers could use to come down a little bit. But I said, really? I'm gonna tell you, that 372 is a smoother saw, but that's just to show you the difference a chain can make. They both cut, they're both throwing chips, but when you make it grabby, it could feel a lot different to somebody. So a smoother saw with a grabbier chain doesn't feel as smooth, if that makes sense, as a less smooth running saw with a smoother chain. It was just kind of interesting. So what I wanted to do, and I've been running these a little bit, they made a bunch of cuts, we had some fun, and he really liked the G372. Problem being is sometimes he's going to run a 28 or a 36 inch bar, and I think a 28 runs wonderfully on a 440, especially one of the built ones, and even a 36. Wouldn't be my daily driver on the saw, but once in a while, you'll run a 36. Kind of like I said about the 260s and 261s. Guys run 20-inch chains or 20-inch bars. I'd never run that because I don't like the way they run. I don't know that I love a 440 with a 36, but it'll get you through jobs if you're doing it, once or twice a year, you need a 36. But if you're going to run, a 25 and a 28, the 361's not going to be for you. I limit that to a 20. And I'll make some time this week. I'll make another video because I'm curious myself with the blue G372 that I have a little more work done to. Not a ton of work. We're not much further than bench mods on that saw. And what I'll do is I'll take that and the orange one, which I could feel doesn't have the torque, has a few less things done to it, and see how it pulls a 25-inch bar and see, make a couple cuts and say, hey, this is how much it slows it down. Is it acceptable now with a 25-inch bar? And listen, guys, I'm not saying you can't run a 25-inch bar. I just want the saw to cut faster. And if I put a giant bar on it and it slows it down, it doesn't feel right to me. I don't like doing it, whether it's, wear and tear on the clutch, running slower, it's just not for me. So I try to match the bar and chain to the saw. And really, you guys, you want to make a saw faster, swap over to 325 on it, swap over to skip. There's a bunch of things you can do. Maybe skip isn't as smooth cutting as you like, and there's more of a science to that kind of stuff. And with an appropriate bar and chain, Most saws are going to cut really nice. It's when you're running dull stuff, you're putting too much bar on it for the saw, and then you don't like the way saws run. Or if you can't sharpen, it's painful. So the other thing that I did in the last day was I did timing advances on both of these. Matt Wood over at Two Stroke and Chainsaw Shop had made me a couple months ago, I asked him to, a couple little 3D printed flywheel keys that are offset. And he made me a bunch of them, and I didn't get to use them till this week. And he started selling them. And what I like about having that little flywheel key is, you guys probably know this, but if you don't, when you put the flywheel on and you're going righty-tighty to tighten the nut on it, your advance, so say you had slop in that flywheel between the flywheel and the key, and you wanted to just get that little bit of advance on it, you're going to hold your hand and you're going to turn that flywheel as far to the left till it hits the key, because there's going to be a little bit of leeway in there. You're going to turn it as far to the left as you can, and then you're going to righty-tighty that nut, which kind of makes the flywheel want to turn back. What I liked about using that little 3D printed flywheel key from Matt is that I could see, because it's orange, and I could see in there to see if it moved, didn't move, and kind of where it was set. So I kind of liked using it. Technically, you don't need a flywheel key other than to set your timing on your saw. That's a, what would you call it, a slip fit, compression fit, friction fit, whatever you want to call it. That's really how that sets. And when you put it at 26 foot-pounds of torque, you should be torquing these. I know everybody just ooga-doogas them on, brap, brap, brap. Good enough. I've done it too. But more and more, I use the torque wrench. I set it to the exact torque. And when that flywheel nut is torqued down appropriately, it shouldn't slip anyway. That's saying that the crank is milled absolutely precise to the flywheel and they fit absolutely precise. If not, maybe your key is holding that on there if there's a little bit of slop. So what I wound up doing was I put a timing advance in both of them. The 372 Pro did not like the timing advance whatsoever, ran like crap. Tried to tune my way out of it, which wasn't going to work, and I knew it wasn't going to work, but I tried it. And I wound up pulling the timing advance out of that. I think that the orange 372 actually had a little bit nicer with the timing advance. You'll see some videos. I'm trying to think offhand who's doing them. God, I'm going blank now because I'm on video and I can't think of it. But there's some good guys out there showing you why you probably need a timing advance on those. And what I'm not sure about is, I believe the 372 has a different coil. Maybe that's why it doesn't like the timing. It doesn't seem like it needs a timing advance as much as some of the original Farmertec 372s and the Neotech ones I heard do real well with the timing advance too. I know Kenny Weisenbacher over at, what is it? Jesus Christ, I can't think of his name either, what his saw shop is. Anyhow, Kenny, Bear Creek Chainsaws, something. Anyhow, he did a few Neotechs, and he says without the timing advance, he hated the saws. He was done with any 372 clone. With the timing advance, they're super nice saws, and he's got a couple nice ones over there. But anyhow, what I'm going to tell you is the timing advance did well on that, didn't do well on this. I thought it gave it a little bit more, but I didn't really time it. I probably should have put a new chain on it and all that stuff, but it's running nice enough. The chain's good enough, and I figured I'd run these three. That saw doesn't have a tank of gas through it yet, so it's pretty green, and it's tuned pretty close to where I think it should leave here at, so I think it's good. And I was just going to run the three of them, do some quick times, and make a quick video. It was mostly a talking video, not a running chainsaws video, but you guys probably don't want to hear me as much as you want to see saws run. One of the things the fella did ask me, he's like, oh, could you put a pipe in that muffler on the 440? I could, but to me, the aftermarket 440s, they're a dual port anyway, and I don't know how much more I get out of the pipe. I had an Egan straight shot that I actually wound up giving to a fella just because I don't know that it gave me enough, and I didn't test it out enough to see. And they kind of seem like a modded muffler to begin with, and if anything, a lot of the times what I'll do is there's the the slit in the front of these. So you got the hole in the side and you got the slit in the front. I'll take a Dremel with a carbide burr and I'll double the volume of that slit in the front, if anything, just to give it more. I don't know if it needs it or not. Oh, that wasn't so comfortable to sit on for so long, a little bit. Anyhow, so he asked about it. I didn't have one made up. Maybe I'll wind up making one up for him down the road. I said it's not totally necessary. If you like it because of the way it looks, whatever, that's a different answer. I'll pause the video, I'll warm these saws up, and I'll make a couple cuts, and that was it. So I told you about the timing advance, what worked, what didn't. Oh, the other thing with the timing advance, so I don't know, and it's just because I don't know. I haven't ripped one down to look and compare. I hadn't thought of it. If the 372 Pro has a different crank, we know it has a different cylinder, a different piston. We know that. It comes with a Walbro carb. What I don't know is if it's a different crank or if it's that different coil, or I'm thinking maybe on these cases, maybe the coil's positioned a little bit differently. That gives it a little bit of an advance, and that's why it doesn't need the advance or respond well to it. And maybe it was just this one saw. Again, this was an early 372 Pro. So I have some questions on why the timing advance fell on its face on this saw and does wonderful on some of the other ones. Just thinking out loud, guys. I'm gonna pause you. We'll run some saws. Well, guys, I went to run the saws and the video cut off. So I'm gonna have to figure out now how to join these two videos and then upload it, because I ran this saw and it cut right off. I guess I'll restart it and run it again and see if we get a video from here. So one of the things that I was talking about after I ran the saw the last time that the video cut off on was, had another orange 440. It was a built 440 that I had out yesterday when Kenny was here. And Bear Creek saws, I think it is. And ran nice, but when I moved the saw around, you know, you'll get a variance in RPMs a little bit when you start tossing them around like that. That's fine, but it seemed a little bit more excessive than what I'd want. So I said that, you know, I didn't think much of it. I said, I'm gonna have to look at this. And Kenny actually mentioned it to me before I went nuts and anything. He said, hey, check your air filter horn, the two little 8mm nuts that hold that on. You may not have that all tight enough together, holding everything together. Sure enough, I go to check it, and that's exactly what it was. So Kenny heard that, he was dead on. I didn't even think about it. He gave me an answer. That was great. But my point is if you have a problem where it's not running quite right, it's not an air leak, it's not a major problem, but it's not exactly perfect, check those little M8 nuts. I'll pause you guys. I'm going to warm up this 372 and we'll go from here. Okay guys, I flip that for a little bit to get it warmed up. I don't know if it's perfectly warmed up, but it's warmer than it was. I hear that breaking up when it's out of the wood a little bit, and maybe I need a little more tuning on it. Again, I was messing with it a little bit, so I might not be tuned in back perfectly, and I'll probably tune it down just a little bit and let the the new owner tune it up a little bit. But I heard it breaking up, but then as it gets warmer, it starts going away. So is it a tuning issue? Is it a warm-up issue? Probably 30 degrees here right now, so it's not freezing. Well, I guess that is freezing, but it's not, you know, -5 or something like that. It's, you know, 30 degrees isn't that bad. I have a sweater on. I'm gonna pause you again. I'll warm up that 372 Pro, run that, and it'll be a video. You probably also could have seen that that chain was a little bit grabby there in the beginning too, and I don't know which chain's which, because I had a grabby one the other day, and then I swapped chains and moved stuff around, and I don't know where I'm at. Okay guys, let's see what I got here. And again, this is more of the same, because I don't think there was any changes on this saw since the other day. It was only the timing advance on the orange one, which I guess I got to tune my way back into that. That was the more aggressive chain. I guess I got to be careful when I'm doing them rakers sometimes, especially this maple's pretty hard, so you could be aggressive on rakers, but some woods like it better than others, you know. I don't know, to me that 440 runs real nice, and I don't know what the times are going to be because they all seem rather close to me. It's hard for me to tell without watching the video and looking at the second timer. I think the orange one with the timing advance might be a little bit more, but I couldn't prove that just by running it. It felt that way. Then, you know, what's the chain? I don't know. They all seem pretty close to me. They're all super nice saws. The 372 Pro feels like, aside from the aggressive chain, it feels like the smoothest saw, and the AV's got to be the same. Granted, that's a 3/4 wrap as opposed to a highway heavy-duty half wrap, but I can't imagine that gives me that much of a difference in feel, but it does feel the smoothest for some reason. Anyhow, guys, hopefully I could join these two videos together so you could get my boring preamble, and I could get these two videos spliced together somehow, and I'll get them uploaded, and I don't know, some comments, especially the timing advance. I'm wondering if I could go even further on that. That breakup, I think, is a tuning issue, but maybe it's the timing advance too. I got to watch all the videos and figure out where I'm at, just because we're doing a bunch of things, and sometimes I get distracted and forget where I'm at with things, but it's just the way it is. Anyhow, guys, True Grit Scott, Bulletproof Saws, and Bluesaws.com. Thanks for watching, and stay safe. I talked enough. Bore you guys to death.